Alright, welcome back to the next video. For a while I thought I was going to try and do one long video to try to really break down all the elements are to make a design kind of from start to finish, but after some thought I think that's going to be actually probably more discouraging than helpful, because it probably lose you halfway through, and we'll just, I think we really just need building blocks. I am designing a scenario right now for our didactics, which is for infectious disease, the topic is septic shock. And I keep coming back to this little tool that I use, which is how to display results onto the patient monitor for the learner to look at. And I think it's a good first step in kind of building your own design. So you would kind of come here to the main page where we're used to, and then you would click right here with Sim Designer, and then you would name your design. We can click on it just to kind of go through it. I might close that mine out, but you would click Create Scenario, or you can create a theme, but we'll cover that later. But Create Scenario is kind of the good starter. Right now I'm going to go up here and open, just in case. Okay, I actually do got my other one open, so we'll close this new one out. Go back to the one I actually have open. So what we're going to do is we're basically adding media files to like the reservoir of what it can see, and then we are going to tell it, we're going to create an action or a button that tells it to display one of these or multiple of these out. So here's how to do it. So how to make these is you could click to add a media file or click to add resource. You would click on that, it'll come up with this menu. You're looking for either media files or lab files. If you click on the lab files, the default thing is blank. So what I've been doing here is I'll actually find this file. So it thankfully does all this in the sim files. So let's say we wanted to make our CBC here. So we would go find our simulation files down here. We'd click and open it. We're going to go down to resources, and then lab files is if what we're looking for, or media files, and then you have radiology files. If you installed, you have some defaults in a lot of these. Just lab files starts out empty. Lab files looks for text files, HTML files, but text or TXT is probably the easiest. So I just, what I've been doing is creating a new text file. I will name it like whatever we're looking for, but I don't want to mess up my current one, but let's call it toxicology for a reason, right? And then we'll say, we'll add some information, and we'll say, carboxy hemoglobin is 30% or something like that. Just some like tool that we'd want to deliver, and then we could hit save, and then the cool part is, sorry, I forgot to mention this, is like you could actually name it what the stimulus that you want to label it for your so that you can remember it, and you can actually later change an alias so that that's not the title that the learner sees, so that they don't like instantly see the answer when you pull it up. So we have our information right here sitting in a TXT. We're going to go back to this. We would say add a resource. We'd say add lab files. We'd find our file right there sitting in our lab files folder. And then we click, and then there it is. So there it is with a name. So all the next step we're going to do is create a button that pushes it to the patient's monitor. So we're going to say click to add event. So events are basically the buttons that we can use. We can also play around with these things if we want to kind of diagram out our scenario, like if you give fluids, this happens. If you don't give fluids, this happens. You can like click here, add here, and then add some states. Then you can link them, and it can get messy quick, and I think it's something I'll probably tackle later. But this button stuff is a good first step, I think. So we're going to click to add event. We're going to browse. Now you can a lot of these don't actually, they're just names. So they don't actually do anything in their own right. They're just reminders for keeping count of things. You can see most of them just say show count, so assess AppGar, show count. That's all it would do. Is if it'll make you a button that'll say 1, 2, 3, the number of times that you click it. So it doesn't so much matter what these are. You can even go so far as like make your own buttons. So you can say new event and name them different things. But what I've been doing because the my events will be saved in total, so it could quickly kind of get out of hand. Like you'll have a lot of your own events. I will just find one that is relevant. So if we wanted to do this like carboxy, we could say like an ABG or a blood gas. What's the closest thing we have? So obtain arterial blood sample, right? So let's say we want to do that one, and we'll select that one, and now we're going to click it. So right now all we have is a button that keeps count. Its default tab that it would be under is labs. In order to kind of simplify the view, I like to drag and drop, and you can see I have the no arrow, and I can actually drop it. Well, no, I don't want to drag that whole thing. I want to drag this specific thing down here. There we go. All right, so now it's part of diagnostics. So we'll have one tab called diagnostics that'll have our labs in it. And then, so obtain arterial blood sample. You can see I've already done this with some of the others. So what we're going to do now is click on this. We can actually rename it. We can say use alias. It's still going to be the action of arterial blood sample. So you can't like make multiple buttons using obtain arterial blood sample that would, for instance, do different things, because this is still the name of this button. You could just name it a different thing like an alias. You could say, carboxyhemoglobin or something like that. So we've named it. So that's our alias. It's what's going to show up as on our button. And just a reminder to us as to what's going to happen when we click that button. And then when the important part is that now we're going to add a response. So you click the add a response. This is a fun menu. This is basically the workhorse of all the buttons you're going to make that make changes happen to SimMan. But right now we're going to, trigger on occurrence. It's like, say you wanted to trigger on count's kind of fun. Like you could do the third epi gets ROSC or something like that. So you can make a button as like ROSC, and then you could say, or you could make a button of epi, and then you could make a effect of getting ROSC. Like you could return all the vital signs to normal and stuff, and add symptoms and stuff. But you could have it actually trigger on count, and you could have it on the third time they give epi, they get ROSC. So that's just to hint at some of the possibilities. Right here, you're going to click non-medical responses. You're going to click add, browse, and then again, you're going to go to the media files. Now, the reason we added it before is because this only sees the media files that we have added to our resources for this specific scenario. It's not going through the files and folders like we were earlier. So this is a media file, so you're going to click that, and that brings up all these, right? So you can actually, like, for example, I did CBC and BMP together because likely our learners are going to order those together. So I just made one button for those. So I clicked both of them. But in this case, let's say we have our carboxyhemoglobin. We're going to click that. Careful here is that transfer only, I'm not really sure what phrasing they're trying to use here. But when you have transfer only, it does not mean transfer to the learner computer. Or maybe it gives that as an option that they can then access the media. I'm not really sure. It just said, but immediately is what I want to happen, because when they order, I want to click the button and I want it to show up. So click immediately there. And then, of course, we don't want any delays on anything. We'll be the delay. And then you click OK. And then now that is added as one of the actions as what will happen with our button. So in summation, we made something that we wanted to show on the monitor. We made a button that we'd have to click, and then we had to tell the computer what we want to happen when that button is clicked. So So now we have a button as carboxyhemoglobin right there. And so let's save. And this is a great feature, is that do you want to include unused resources in the scenario? Found out that you can actually, as you add these files here, I noticed that I had all these labs when we started here, but when we went to the lab folder, there was nothing in it. That button right there means that your SCX file that you generate whenever you save one of these simulations actually contains all your labs and media, so you can design them at home and bring them into the sim lab where you don't have to do all your work in the sim lab, which was a game changer for me. So we'll click. Oh wait, no, we don't want to be here. We want here LEAP. We're going to start this up, and I just want to show you what our scenario has turned into now that we added those. Now that we added those buttons. Continue without debriefing, US user preferences, automatic mode, and then we'll select the scenario that I made. It's going to be under SimMan Essential, and there's the septic shock. And then we'll, I guess, start session. But then you can see under the tab that I said with diagnostics, and then here's our buttons that we made. I don't really know how. So on the instructor's computer, all it shows is the count, because what it's actually going to do is push that to it's going to push that to the computer. So, but that's what I wanted to show you. I think that's a great start in learning how to program your own scenarios, because now you can make some buttons and push some lab results and stuff that you want to cue the learner with, and it's one step closer to being able to do all this what we want to do with the simulations. Thanks for listening. Bye.